My brother made my life a living nightmare, and just when I thought it couldn't get worse, he went and got my wife pregnant. Now, after our parents have cut ties with him and left me their $2 million inheritance, he's come crawling back, asking for help. Ben, my younger brother, has always carried this strange grudge against me. And no, it wasn't because he was jealous. I know that's what most people might assume, but that's not it at all. If anything, he was the golden boy in our family. I was the one left in the shadows. He had everything handed to him, so there was really no reason for envy. To paint a clearer picture, our mom doted on Tomas constantly. She pampered him like a little prince, cooked his favorite meals, did his laundry, and even roped me into helping him with schoolwork. It was just expected of me, no questions asked. "You're his brother," she'd say, like that explained everything. I never got the same treatment. I guess I went along with it because I was independent by nature. Maybe I made it worse by always helping him out and never asking for anything in return. But Ben? He never once lifted a finger when I needed support. The only time he approached me was when he wanted something. I was a quiet, bookish kid who preferred to be left alone, while he was loud, wild, and full of swagger, just like our dad. I've always been direct, the type who speaks plainly without sugarcoating anything. I think that rubbed my mom the wrong way. She never said it outright, but it felt like she started seeing me as the difficult one because I didn't fake niceties. Tomas remained the family favorite, and honestly, I didn't really mind while we were little. But things shifted when he turned from being the spoiled kid to the schoolyard bully, only I was his main target. He mocked my height, made fun of my glasses, and even started sneaking into my room. He'd read my diary, then tattled to Mom about what I'd written, twisting it just to stir drama. When I lost my cool and told our parents, they'd just chuckle and say I was overreacting. "It's just brotherly teasing," they'd claim. But it was more than that. He crossed every line. Once, he nearly snapped my glasses in half. Another time, he actually put something gross in my food. He even dropped tiny stones into my cereal. I was lucky I spotted them before I broke a tooth. I told Mom, and she just brushed it off, saying, "That's how brothers play." Whenever we argued, Tomas would laser in on whatever I felt insecure about. We went to the same school, and he knew I was getting picked on. Instead of helping, he joined the bullies, taunting me with names like ugly loser and hairy monkey. He even egged them on to hit me, laughing about how pathetic I was. There was this one argument. I don't even remember what triggered it, but he told me I should kill myself. Most of his words didn't faze me, but that one cut deep. At the time, I was already struggling with my mental health, and hearing that from my own brother felt like a punch to the soul. I'm in a better place now, but back then, it nearly broke me. Our dad was always busy with work, and Mom, well, she seemed checked out. Once, she even scolded me for provoking Ben, like it was somehow my fault he lashed out. Things just kept getting worse. Then came the incident in high school that still makes me shudder. Tomas tried to set my hair on fire. No joke. And what did Mom say? That he was just playing. I mean, seriously, who does that? Luckily, Dad finally stepped in. He saw how serious it was and actually threatened to call the cops on Ben. That was the first time Tomas seemed genuinely shocked, like it never crossed his mind that there might be real consequences. Dad told him, flat out, that he needed to stop acting like a brat and start treating me with respect. Later that night, he came to my room to talk. I never expected that. He and Tomas were so alike, I always assumed he'd side with him no matter what. But that night, Dad confessed something I'll never forget. He had hoped Tomas would eventually grow up, but it was becoming clear he was turning into a bully. Hearing him say that, it meant everything to me. I was on the edge of tears as I unloaded years of pent-up hurt, even the stuff about the bullies at school. Dad was floored. The next day, he went straight to the principal and made sure the kids picking on me were warned they'd face serious consequences if they kept it up. That same evening, he signed me up for MMA classes at our local gym. He told me, "It's time you learned how to stand up for yourself." At first, I felt out of place, a skinny, nerdy kid trying to throw punches. But I threw myself into it. I stayed on top of my studies and trained every day. That decision changed my life. The workouts built up not just my body, but my confidence too. Then one day, Tomas pulled another stunt. He stole my pocket money. I'd been saving up for weeks from doing chores. He slipped into my room, snatched the cash, and was about to ride off with his buddies when I caught him. I marched up and demanded my money back. He laughed in my face, saying all I ever did was cry to Dad. Something inside me snapped. I socked him right in the face. He stumbled back, totally caught off guard, and I snatched my money from his pocket. Then I shoved him down and walked away. He burst into tears. Honestly, it was kind of funny. Mom ran out when she heard the commotion. When she found out I hit him, she scolded me, acting like I was the bad guy. Tomas stood there smirking, loving every second of it. She even dragged Dad into it, saying I was out of control and needed discipline. But Dad made both of us explain ourselves. I told him the whole story, how Tomas had stolen the money I worked hard for. Ben, of course, tried to justify it, saying he needed it for a date and that I should have just helped him out. But Dad wasn't having it. He looked Tomas dead in the eye and said, "You're lucky he only punched you. Anyone else would have called the cops." He laid it out clear. Taking something without permission is stealing, plain and simple. Tomas threw one of his classic tantrums, probably hoping Mom would jump in to defend him. But this time, Dad stood firm. When Tomas realized he wasn't going to get rescued, he screamed that he hated me and stormed off, slamming his bedroom door behind him. After that, he started keeping his distance. He knew he couldn't push me around anymore. Even Dad wasn't backing him up like before. For the first time in a long while, I felt like he and I were finally on equal footing. He stopped trying to physically intimidate me, but when our parents weren't around, he still threw in nasty jabs and insults whenever he could. As Tomas got older, his behavior only worsened. He grew angrier, more impatient, always ready to explode over nothing. Anytime I tried to talk to him, even just to ask a basic question, he'd scoff, mumble something like, "loser," or "nerd" under his breath, and walk away like I didn't even exist. If he ever needed to say something to me, he'd make Mom relay the message, like we were on two different planets. I remember asking her once, "Why can't Tomas just talk to me like a normal person?" She just sighed and told me to try being more understanding. But understanding what, exactly? Puberty? Hatred? I couldn't tell what I was supposed to excuse anymore. Eventually, I just started counting the days until I could leave. Being around him was draining. It felt like I was always dodging verbal grenades. I begged Mom more than once to help us sit down and talk things out, to at least try and mediate. Every time, she shook her head and said, "I don't want to get involved." And when I asked her why Tomas treated me like dirt, she'd just brush me off, like the question didn't deserve a real answer. Eventually, I got accepted into my dream university on a scholarship, one of the proudest moments of my life. Dad threw a little party, and even Mom seemed proud of me for once. But Ben? He stayed cold and distant, barely even acknowledged I was leaving. He didn't congratulate me, didn't wish me luck. Nothing. When I finally left home, it felt like I could breathe again. A mix of excitement and relief washed over me, like I was escaping a cage that had slowly been closing in on me for years. College was a breath of fresh air. I made friends, loved my classes, and finally started living without that heavy cloud hanging over me. No more waking up worried about what cruel thing my brother would say next. For the first time in my life, I felt at peace. Then came Bella. We met during my second year at a frat party. A mutual friend introduced us, and we clicked instantly. She had this energy, warm, grounded, easy to talk to. Coming from a conservative background, we both agreed that having kids outside of marriage wasn't exactly the plan. But life doesn't always go by the book. During our final year, we found out she was pregnant. We didn't panic. We decided to do things our way. Right after graduation, we got married. It wasn't some huge lavish event, just close family and friends. But it was beautiful. Our parents were happy. And I truly believed, in that moment, that Bella was the love of my life. I'd always imagined a faithful, lifelong partner, someone to build a home with, raise a family, grow old beside. Even when other women showed interest in me, I never strayed. I didn't want to. Bella was it for me. She was everything I'd ever wanted. But that dream started to crack. Eventually, I found out about not one, but two affairs. The first was an ongoing thing with her married coworker. It had gone on for years, behind my back. The second was a short fling with her ex-boyfriend, while she was supposedly visiting her family. I know, some would call me naive for sticking around. And yeah, maybe I was. But each time we split, I kept coming back. I didn't want to raise our child in a broken home. I told myself we could push through it. The coworker thing? I chalked it up to youth, to poor choices and immaturity. And for a while, it felt like things really did get better. Even though I never fully trusted her again, I tried. I pushed down my doubts. I told myself that if I chose to forgive, I had to actually try, no half measures. For years passed after that second betrayal, and honestly, I thought we were solid. Bella had changed, or so it seemed. We were making plans for the future, raising our son, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe we were going to make it. Then came the bombshell. 3 months ago, Bella sat me down and told me she'd been having a long-term affair. And get this, she said our son might not even be mine. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I couldn't think straight. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her how long she'd been hiding this, and why she'd do something so destructive to the family we built. But she barely reacted. No tears. No real remorse. Just vague answers and a cold, distant tone. Like she wasn't even part of the wreckage she had just caused. I kept pressing for the truth. I had to know. I needed to know who my son's father actually was. I'd raised him since birth, loved him with everything I had. That's when she said it, Ben. My stomach turned. "What do you mean, Ben?" I asked, thinking I had misheard. She explained that back when I first brought her home for the holidays, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, she and Tomas had gotten close. I remember that time. Ben, who normally couldn't stand me, had actually been polite to her. It made me happy, honestly. I didn't want Bella to feel awkward or out of place. She even started spending time with Mom and got invested in our family dynamic, wanting to feel like she belonged. She noticed the tension between Tomas and me and asked about it. I told her everything, our broken relationship, the bullying, all of it. She seemed to get it. She wanted to help, I think. She started inviting Tomas along to our movie nights. He always picked the movie, but I didn't mind. Bella and I were happy, and Tomas was at least speaking to me. It felt like progress. They'd play video games together, hang out sometimes when I wasn't around. I didn't think anything of it. Bella told me that one day, Tomas opened up to her about his recent breakup and how lost he felt. That vulnerability, she claimed, is what led to them growing close. She said he started flirting when I wasn't there, and eventually, things went too far. Just the image of them together made me physically sick. Bella said she felt guilty afterward and ended it. It lined up with her sudden decision to head back home before New Year's. I remember trying to convince her to stay, but she insisted on leaving. When we saw each other again back at school, she was back to her cheerful self, like nothing had happened. 2 weeks later, we found out she was pregnant. Bella admitted she wasn't sure who the father was, me or Ben. But since she couldn't prove it either way, she stayed with me because I was the dependable brother. That's what she said. That was the real reason we got married. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my son, it all came crashing down. The boy I had raised and loved might not even be mine. I asked Bella if she and Tomas had been together recently, if this was still happening. She hesitated, then nodded. Slowly, she confessed they never really stopped. Even after all this time, they kept in touch. She said their chemistry was undeniable, and they'd been sneaking off to hotels, lying to me about working late. Bella admitted that about half of her so-called business trips were actually romantic escapes with my brother. I sat there, stunned. I asked her straight up, "If you wanted to be with Ben, why the hell did you marry me?" She looked down, then back at me with those glassy, tear-filled eyes, and said she didn't want to be the one to end the marriage. That she stayed because I was a great father, and she didn't want to tear the family apart. In her words, it had all started as a mistake, and then she didn't know how to stop. I told her I appreciated the honesty, but I was done. I needed to pack up and go. That's when the tears really started. She sobbed, begged for forgiveness, probably expecting me to scream at her or throw things. But I didn't. I was calm, too calm. I just grabbed a suitcase and started folding clothes like it was just another Tuesday. Bella kept saying, "If you love me, fight for us. Mistakes happen. Every marriage has problems." I didn't say much, just kept packing. When she realized I wasn't biting, she switched gears, started saying how the divorce would destroy our son, how children need both parents, how we couldn't let him grow up in a broken home. I looked her in the eye and reminded her that the boy might not even be mine. That broke her. She cried harder and accused me of being heartless. But the truth is, I think she genuinely believed I would never walk away. That no matter what she did, I'd always stay. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I let too many things slide for too long. Maybe I'd taught her there were no consequences. Sure, I loved her, but I think it was mostly tied to the history, to the idea of raising a family together, to the belief that we had a son. When that belief shattered, everything else did too. She kept pleading that we could fix it, but the trust was gone. Her words felt empty. Even if I managed to forgive her, I knew I'd never be able to forget that she slept with my brother. That's a scar no amount of therapy or time could ever erase. I left her crying at the door, got in my car, and checked into a hotel. The next morning, I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't sugarcoat it. I laid everything out, told them Bella had been cheating on me with Tomas for years. My mom's jaw dropped. True to form, she immediately tried to defend him. "Tomas would never do that to his own brother," she said. I told them to just sit tight and listen. I was going to call Tomas right then and there. I wanted them to hear it for themselves. I hit speaker and dialed his number. When he picked up, I didn't waste time. "Hey, I know about the affair," I said flatly. He acted outraged, denied everything. "What the hell are you talking about?" he snapped. But when I told him Bella had confessed, he flipped the script and threw her under the bus. Called her characterless. Said it wasn't his fault if women found him irresistible. He even had the audacity to say, "I'm the better-looking brother. What did you expect?" That's when I dropped the hammer. I told him I was going to tell everyone. He laughed, mocked me, said no one would believe me because he was the golden child. That's when I smiled and said, "Thanks for confirming it, Ben. Mom and Dad just heard everything." Suddenly, he went quiet. Then came the stammering, backpedaling. He tried to explain, tried to play it off as if Bella had seduced him. My mom, who had always protected him no matter what, looked like someone had punched her in the gut. She turned to him, her golden boy, and asked, "Ben, why?" He fumbled, blamed Bella, blamed me, blamed the universe. But the damage was done. For once, Mom wasn't shielding him. She looked more hurt than angry, like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. Then my dad stepped in. He reached for the phone, took a breath, and said, "Ben, what you've done isn't just a betrayal of your brother. It's a betrayal of this entire family. You slept with your brother's wife. And you kept doing it, even after they were married." His voice was calm, but every word was heavy. "You've destroyed any trust we had in you. I raised you both to value family, loyalty, respect, and you've thrown that all away. You've not only hurt your brother, but you've damaged the very core of this family." He paused. I could feel Tomas squirming on the other end of the line. "We're not blameless," my dad continued. "Your mother and I, we enabled you. But that ends today. You're cut off. The college fund? Gone. The extra money we've been sending you every month? Gone. You want to play the man? Let's see how you do without our help." I stood there quietly, listening, holding it together. As much as I wanted to scream at Ben, this, watching my father lay it all out, was the closure I didn't know I needed. Tomas tried to talk, to defend himself again, but my dad ended the call. Afterward, my mom came over and hugged me. We hadn't had a moment like that in years. There wasn't much said, but I could feel it. The regret, the apology, the silent acknowledgement that for once, she saw me and believed me. My 14-year-old self never thought this day would come. Not long after, my dad helped me hire a solid divorce attorney. Bella and her lawyer tried to play dirty, pushing for alimony since I earned more. But her affair gave me the upper hand. And then came the paternity test. It confirmed what I feared. Tomas was the biological father. That moment broke something inside me. Even more than learning about the affair. The boy I had raised, loved, sacrificed for, wasn't mine. I'd built my world around him. And just like that, it crumbled. Bella begged me to keep visiting him. Said he was innocent, that he didn't deserve to be punished. But every time I looked at that kid, all I saw was Ben's face. The resemblance was undeniable. And it tore me apart inside. I couldn't do it. Not then. Maybe not ever. After the divorce was finalized, I felt this strange, almost surreal wave of freedom wash over me. I moved into my own place, my first real bachelor pad, and for the first time in my adult life, I was living entirely on my own terms. It felt weird at first. I'd gotten married young, never had the solo phase most people go through. But the truth is, I've always been pretty independent by nature, and I adjusted fast. And I'll be honest, I started to enjoy it. The quiet, the space, the fact that I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. No drama, no lies, no pretending. About 2 weeks ago, my dad gave me a call. He said he was planning to change his will. Said he didn't want Tomasto get a single cent. And knowing my father, when he makes up his mind, there's no talking him out of it. Ben, of course, had already tried everything to get back in their good graces. Called, texted, even showed up at their front door with a face full of regret. But my parents weren't having it. Not even my mom, who had always caved to Ben's tantrums, would open the door. I could tell it was hardest on her, but even she seemed done. Tomas never once reached out to me to apologize. Not a single word. That's how I knew he wasn't sorry. He was just pissed that the gravy train had stopped running. Dad told me he planned to leave everything to me, his assets, retirement, life insurance, the whole estate. The only thing Tomas would get was $1, just to keep him from legally contesting the will. I was floored. All of it totaled close to $2 million. My dad had worked his ass off for that, and now it was all coming to me. There was one condition, though. If my dad passed before my mom, she'd stay in the house, even though it'd technically be mine. I had no issue with that. If anything, I wanted her to be comfortable in her final years. But somehow, unsurprisingly, Tomas found out. My guess? My mom slipped. He couldn't get to our parents, so he called me yesterday, acting like he wanted to bury the hatchet. He sounded desperate. Told me college was falling apart. Bella was hitting him up for child support now that the paternity was out in the open, and he couldn't find work. Said he was applying for part-time jobs and coming up empty. Then he flat out begged me to talk to our parents for him. Said he just wanted a fresh start. I laughed. I actually laughed. Then I told him exactly what he needed to hear, that I was done with him. I reminded him that maybe he should have thought about the fallout before crawling into bed with my wife and knocking her up. He got defensive, tried to play the "Bella's to blame too" card. And I said, "Yeah, she is. That's why I divorced her. Which makes her your problem now, not mine." I told him I didn't want to hear about her or the kid ever again. These were his consequences to deal with. When he started raising his voice, I cut him off. I reminded him that he wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was the family disgrace, the guy who slept with his brother's wife and destroyed every relationship in the process. That's when the dam broke. He started crying, full-on sobbing. Told me everyone, our grandparents, our relatives, had turned their backs on him. He was alone. And yeah, that part stung. Not gonna lie. I hung up after telling him, for the last time, that I didn't consider him my brother anymore. And I meant it. But the conversation has been echoing in my head ever since. I've never heard Tomas cry like that. Not since we were kids. And as much as I hate him, and I do, there's a part of me that felt something. Maybe guilt. Maybe sadness. I don't know. So now I'm left wondering, would I be the asshole if I didn't talk to my parents about him? Update 1. A lot of people have been asking why I cut off contact with Ben. Some even called me heartless. So let me clear that up. I didn't walk away from a stepson. I walked away from a life I was tricked into. I was led to believe Ben was my son. I loved him, raised him, made sacrifices for him. And then I found out he wasn't mine, he was Ben's. That truth broke me. I cried for days. The pain was unreal. And no, I don't want Bella in my life in any form. If I stay in touch with Ben, she'll use him as a way to weasel her way back in. I need distance. I need peace. Maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe it makes me human. But I can't do it. Not now, maybe not ever. Update 2. Yup, you all guessed it. It was my mom who told Tomas about the will. I confronted her right in front of my dad. She broke down. Said I'd punished Tomas enough. That he'd learned his lesson. But my dad wasn't having it. He looked her straight in the eye and said if she thought what Tomas did was forgivable, then maybe they shouldn't be married anymore. That shut her down instantly. He made it crystal clear, if she talked to Tomas again and we found out, she'd be packing her bags. My dad doesn't bluff. Hopefully my mom understands that now. Update 3. Hey Reddit. 5 months later and here we are. Things with my parents are better. My dad and I have been golfing every weekend. Honestly, he treats me more like a buddy now than a son. It's been kind of healing. My mom still misses Ben. I can see it in her eyes. But she hasn't reached out to him since my dad laid down the law. Last I heard, Tomas had dropped out of college. Couldn't afford the fees. My cousin told me he's working part-time as a mechanic now, living with Bella. Sounds like they're raising Ben together. And you know what? Good. Let them build the life they deserve, together. We don't talk about Thomas in the family anymore. And I prefer it that way. As for me, I'm doing well. I got promoted a couple months back, and the bump in salary's been nice. I'm not dating anyone yet. Still feel like I need some time to heal. I'm seeing a therapist, working through it all. Maybe I'll get there eventually. Thanks for sticking with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and the notification bell. Plenty more wild real-life stories coming your way.